ومن والاه وبعد. All praise due to Allah and His praise and blessings and peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family and his followers until the day of judgment. I will say in the beginning, it's been over a year since I stopped my classes in Houston. I mean the regular weekly classes. I used to give it to the Madrasa Islamiyya for, alhamdulillah, continuously over 7 years, to the extent today, in my way here, I went straight to Madrasa Islamiyya instead of coming to this place because I'm so used to it. And I'm not planning to stop my classes over there or other places. But I decided to do something else instead. I decide because of personal commitment that I have with so many institutions, educational institutions as well, locally and nationally and internationally, which require for me a lot of traveling, a lot of time outside of Houston. I thought about my own community in Houston, what I have been doing, what I've been offering beside the classes that I give it occasionally. And thus, since I'm saying that, I would like to see all of you, inshallah, in the first weekend of April, in one of the first classes ever is going to be taught in the United States by Al-Maghrib Institute about the life of the scholars. And that course, in my opinion, is a fundamental course, even though I'm really, I believe deep in my heart it should be one of the core courses that any student of knowledge, any person who loves knowledge in general, who loves religion in general, should take, to know the life of the early Muslim scholars, how they lived their life. And it's going to be very interesting course, because in it I will try my best to make you able to, as we say, to zoom in the camera. So instead of just telling you there were some great scholars named Al-Hasan al-Basri living in Basra and he's a great Zahid, he said 2-3 quotes. No, that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested to zoom in the camera, to let you walk in Al-Basra streets, to walk into his house, to walk into the house of those scholars, how he acted as Al-Hasan al-Basri, not as the Imam or the Sheikh, before him being Imam, before him being Sheikh, to see him as a human, as a husband. Interesting, he married to a Christian woman, how he will be dealing with a woman, she's not Muslim, somebody like Al-Hasan al-Basri, somebody like married to a woman who is more knowledgeable than him, another scholar, who will, when he wants to have fatwa or to issue a fatwa, he needs to consult her in order for him to make the fatwa. How kind of life is this? Very interesting life. That personal touch to the scholars has a lot to do with our daily life. So I will highly recommend you to come and participate, inshallah, in this course. Also to tell others to come. Anyway, so going back to my point, what I'm thinking about Houston, I decide to give every 3 weeks, like the third week of every month, a topic that I believe is a fundamental topic. And mainly I'm targeting those who are active in da'wah and very committed in da'wah and ilm. And it's going to be something general. Maybe next time when we send you the email, it will be in Al-Faruq, Al-Madrasa Islamiyya. So somehow we need to keep some kind of communication between us in future. And I will prepare carefully for these lectures. And I'm selecting the topics of this lecture very carefully to meet certain standards I have in my mind, and to deliver certain points I'm interested to leave it with my brothers and sisters and my students as well. So inshallah, يعني, just give you a heads up about what is my plan is. Today I would like to talk about something very interesting, and I think it can be an open session to those who care about ilm, care about knowledge, and it is natural to love the knowledge. It's natural to love the knowledge. That's how Allah created us. He created us, and He created in us all the tools that we use to inquire the knowledge. Eyes, ears, mind, heart. You can memorize things, analyze things. SubhanAllah, this is the way you've been created. And all this to what? To inquire the knowledge, to learn the knowledge. Knowledge is a very broad subject. That's when you say the word knowledge, ilm. It's a very broad thing. It can be in so many different areas, so many different fields. What I'm interested in, and that's what I'm focusing on and with you here, is the ilm of the Sharia, or the ilm of the Sharia. No doubt that the ilm, the knowledge of Sharia, is the highest knowledge that ever can a person seek or have. Why? It's not because I graduate in theology, so you know what, I feel like I'm better than anybody else. No, it's about me, it's not about anybody else. They always say, sharaful ilm bi sharafil ma'loom. You always recognize the virtues of anything by seeing what's this knowledge focusing on. What's the benefit? What is related to? If it's related to something noble, this ilm will be very noble. Will be very noble. If it's related to something is not noble, something cheap, something has no value, this knowledge has no value. Has no value. And this is, you can see it in even in our life around us. You see somebody, for example, even among the same field, you see among the doctors, you see the doctors not the same. Some of them, because they are specialized in very area like brain surgeon or something, or heart surgeon, you will feel that, wow, he's like way higher than so many other general doctors. For example, will be more paying more than foot doctor, for example, because your brain is more important than your feet. Even everything is important here. But still there is as much as this ilm, this knowledge related to something very valuable. Human, the doctor who treated human, is something very noble. Why? Because human is a very noble creation. Is a very noble creation. That's why doctors have a very good high position in society. Shafi'i rahimahullah said, I don't know any knowledge better after fiqh than he said medicine. Also, you look, for example, to the ilm al-sharia, the knowledge of the sharia itself. You will see that the knowledge which is focused on knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the tawheed, the aqidah, the belief, the Muslim, is it is the highest level or the highest type of knowledge. When you go to you go to the knowledge related to the Quran, which is ulum al-tafsir, in a very high rank. It's way higher than just studying mustalah al-hadith, the technical definitions of the scholars of hadith, or the technical definitions that the fuqaha, the Muslim jurists, use. It's way different than this level. It's way higher than that. The scholar of hadith is way higher. The fuqaha, the one who tell you the halal and haram, are way higher in level than somebody just can memorize all the chain of narrators, and he can tell you this hadith reported by this and that, but he doesn't know what it means and what is the halal and haram in this text. Because it's very noble. I'm telling you what is halal, what is haram. And basically, when I issue the fatwa, as Imam al-Qayyim called them, إِعْلَامُ الْمُوَقِّعِينَ عَنْ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, that he called the muftis the one who sign on behalf of Allah. When you issue a fatwa, basically you signing on behalf of Allah. Because who said this is allowed and this is not allowed? This is lawful and this is unlawful? Allah. So if you will to put yourself in a position to say this is allowed, this is not allowed, as if you are signing on behalf of Allah, as if Allah giving you that power to say that on His behalf. That's why the fatwa is a very, very dangerous thing. And Imam Malik rahimahullah he used to say أكره أن يقال في مسائل الاجتهاد هذا حلال وهذا حرام. I dislike that a student of knowledge or the sheikh or the alim or the mufti to say in any issue of ijtihad. Ijtihad, it means an issue that it does not base on a very clear evidence in the textual evidence of Quran and Sunnah. Something and it's a contemporary issue, you making a new rule for it to give a rule in regard to this contemporary issue. He said, I don't want the scholars or the student of knowledge to say in issues like this halal and haram, because the word halal, lawful and unlawful, it's very strong. But what he would rather us to use, what Ibn Mas'ud used to say, أكره ذلك. Or Imam Ahmad, very famous also, later on he used that. أكره ذلك لا أحب لك ذلك. I don't like this for you. Don't do that. Today, a sister called me. She was asking me about a certain type of transaction. So I told her, I don't want you to do that. I don't feel comfortable for you to do that. Then she said, يعني halal or haram? Give me the bottom line. I said, it's not, I cannot just tell you halal. It's a very big word. But I will tell you, I wouldn't recommend you to do that. So I said, okay, so I can do it. Because it's only I cannot recommend you. You know, people just lost that sensitivity when it comes to the ruling. That's a very common among the early Muslim jurists that would use the word I dislike, I don't love that, I don't like that, I don't feel comfortable for you to do that. This is their fatwa. It's very rare to find somebody will say haram, halal. It's very rare in the contemporary issues. Right. So basically the issue of Imam Malik rahimahullah, when he said that we don't say halal and haram in contemporary issues, show the sensitivity, because it's about you sign on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the fiqh is a very high level. It's a very respected knowledge. It's a very respected knowledge. The Sharia or the ilm Sharia, as I said, everybody loves to learn about it. Everybody here, I'm sure, he says, I would love to learn. I'm very excited about learning. But still I have seen one common complaint. That is, I didn't go any farther. I'm still in the same place. I don't feel I accomplished much. Yes, I love it, but I'm not doing as I thought I should. And I think this is a common problem. I hear it a lot. I'm not here to talk about this in detail. It will take one specific lecture. But I just want to tell you something. That love that you have in your heart for the knowledge, in itself an act of worship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves it so much. يقول الإمام الشافعي رحمه الله, I don't know anything after the obligatories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it obligatory on us, the pillars of Islam, and the obligatories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it obligatory on everyone to do, like being good to your neighbor, good to your family, good to your parents, taking care of your family members, these obligatory things, al-wajibat. He said, I don't know anything comes right after that better than seeking knowledge. And he talked about seeking knowledge in the sense that you're doing now. Yani learning something extra than what is obligatory on you. Extra than what is obligatory on you. He said, I don't think there is anything in the Sharia, better than that. That's why you will see the ulama, the scholars, author books, and they put chapters. I'm still until today amazed by this chapter. I never thought I will ever come across title like this. I never ever in my life, and it still shocked me until today. Even I read it years, maybe 20 years or more ago, but still shocked me as if it's wow every time I read it. Which is a chapter in a book it's called Bayan al-Ilm wa Fadlih, written by Ibn Abdul Barr. He said, Babu Fadli Midad al-Alim ala Dam al-Shahid. That chapter showing that the ink of the scholars are much better in the sight of Allah than the blood of the shaheed. The blood of the shaheed. It shocked me when I read that chapter. Wow. And those people, not people like just coming from street. Those people are very knowledgeable people. And he have written in this chapter over 20 narrations and several stories to support that title. That when you talk about the volunteer actions, no doubt that one of the highest form actually of jihad is learning knowledge, and delivering the knowledge. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about Al-Quran, وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. Ya Muhammad, use this Quran as a tool of performing jihad against who? Against the kuffar, against the disbelievers. The ulama, the scholars said that use Al-Quran, not the sword, not the weapon, the Quran as your tool of making jihad against those kuffar, which it basically means use the knowledge as a tool of struggling against the kuffar. Also the scholar used the other verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, Allah ordered the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to struggle with the kuffar and the hypocrites. He said, يا أيها النبي جاهد الكفار والمنافقين واغلظ عليهم. O Muhammad, jahid, fight al-kuffar and al-munafiqeen, واغلظ عليهم, be very firm with that. Al-ulama said, we know that in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam never declared war against the hypocrites. Haven't Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ever involved in any battle against the hypocrites? No. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam never did. So the ulama said, the meaning of this verse means, Ya Muhammad, the fight, the struggle with the hypocrites, it will be by, and the kuffar as well, it will be by another mean other than just the sword and the hand, which is by spreading the knowledge, by debating, by showing the truth, and so on. If this has been said, also I remember Ibn Mubarak rahimahullah, when he was asked once, if you were to die today, then Allah resurrect you or bring you back to this life, to this worldly life. When you come back, what the thing that you will come back to do? Can you imagine, ask yourself, if you die today and Allah give you one more chance, second chance, what you will come back to do? He said without hesitation, without thinking, قال أطلب العلم, I come back to seek knowledge. Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu anhu أرضاه. And I'm sure that most of you know who's Mu'adh. Umar ibn al-Khattab said, I heard the Prophet ﷺ said, يأتي يوم القيامة يسبق العلماء برطوة حجر. Umar said that he heard the Prophet ﷺ said, Mu'adh will come in the day of judgment ahead of all the scholars, leading all the scholars. And in Nabi sallallahu hadith is Muslim Ahmad, and in Nabi sallallahu said also in Sunnah Tirmidhi that in Nabi sallallahu said Mu'adh is the most knowledgeable person in halal and haram in this ummah, what is lawful and what is unlawful in this whole entire nation, from the time of the Prophet all the way until the day of judgment. It's not only, see, with all this advanced technology we have, with all these books that's been written, how many books you think were written in the process on time? After the process on time. Our first book we know it was written in Sharia 81 Hijri. That's one single book, and after that you talk about after 100 years the books start as a concept to be starting 120, 130 and so on. But the first one like 81 Hijri, a book about Seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, the life of the Prophet ﷺ. So after that the books started, and a lot of knowledge was documented and collected. Do you think the knowledge, okay, those who came later may be more knowledgeable? Still, Mu'adh is ahead of everybody else. Radiallahu anhu arda. By the way, Mu'adh became Muslim when he was 18 years old and died when he was 32 years old. That's 32, by the way, the latest number, age. There is another narration saying 28 years old, 29 years old, 27 years old. But يعني الذهبي رحمه الله mentioned several one. I'm just picking the last one, the oldest يعني age that you can imagine. يعني it means 14 years in Islam. 14 years in Islam, that's it. No more. So if this is the case, that will be my introduction to my point today, which is, what's the difference between the ilm, the knowledge of the early Muslim generation, we call them always as-salaf as-salih, and the khalaf, those who came later on? How can we tell? Is it the same? There is totally different way when you compare the way the early Muslim generation learned the knowledge, seized the knowledge, identified the knowledge, and also those who came later on. And when I talk about the early Muslim generations, I am really focusing on the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And also, we can include in that the successors, the second generations, and some even will extend that to the third generation. But I believe that the companions of Muhammad ﷺ really set themselves apart from any other group, from any other generations. And this is very clear. I give you for example, let me see. Can anybody here think of something difference can be noticed as one of the differences between the companions and everybody else in the ummah and the rest of the Muhammad ﷺ ummah? Something special quality about the companions which is related to knowledge that nobody else has it. Can you think of something? Yes. They witnessed the Prophet ﷺ. They saw with their own eyes how the Prophet ﷺ acted, how he behaved, how he understood, how he took that verse, how he understood this verse. This is something I used to hear it when I was in college, when I was in high school, after college. I always read this, especially Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned this a lot. I'll tell you the truth. I never ever understood it clearly as I did when I moved to America. How? I'll tell you how. When I came to America, I saw people here in America talking about the shuyukh overseas. Okay? So I'm talking about the shuyukh overseas, Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh bin Uthaymeen, these Albani, these big names. So on, so many names. Then I kept listening to how they view them, how they look at them, how they take their words, their teaching. And I tell myself, is this the same bin Baz I lived with, I studied under, and I saw? Is this the same Sheikh they taught? Hold on, wait a second. He never acted this way. He never understood it this way. Yes, he said that, but this is not the way he practiced it. You're just taking it out of content. For example, when somebody told me Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah was very strong against the innovators. Yes, absolutely. He will refute the innovations. He will not tolerate the innovation. So I see people what they start practicing. Okay, he see this, then he will start labeling everybody as innovator. But I caught this person. I don't talk to this person. Even I don't give him salam. I will give him names. I will give. And in no time I found those people start dividing the community. And under what? Under the claim that bin Baz used to be very this or Sheikh so and so. I said to myself, but is this really what Sheikh bin Baz used to practice? Is this how he understood that? Is this text that he took? This is the way he behaved? Is this the way he dealt with so many people belong to different jama'at, different groups, even people of innovations that Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah dealt with in the university, in the da'wah activities, in so many areas? No, at all. And in that moment I started to realize the difference between just reading and seeing and witnessing. In that moment I realized the big difference between me and those who never met the Shaykh, who never lived with the Shaykh, who only knew the Shaykh through books or through CD that they heard one lecture. And you can take this example to the other extreme. Some people, they criticize so much, and after I said, I know this guy is not that bad. He's not that way of the thing. They just took one text. I lived with him. I spent time with him. I saw him. I saw things about him that nobody else, you just can't see it from a book, from a text. Yes, the Sahaba deliver this text of the Prophet ﷺ, but it's totally different case when you see somebody living with you. When you see somebody living with you. If you want to examine my idea in a scientific method, collect all the ahadith that we have about the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Set it together and start reading it. How many days it will take you? The 13 years of Mecca? The 23 years that the Prophet lived as a prophet or as a messenger? Yeah, it will take you a month reading it, 2 months, 1 year. So what about the rest of all this life? No doubt there is a big difference between you as a reader to the textual evidence or the text that describing the life of the Prophet ﷺ and the one who witnessed. That's why Allah saved for us two things. Beside Al-Quran, He saved for us Al-Quran was Sunnah, and He saved for us the statement of the companions, the life of the companions, because this is the way to see how this Prophet Muhammad ﷺ practiced and lived his life. They are a practical example of practicing the religion in front of your eyes, in front of you. Beside the Prophet ﷺ being a practical example to how to understand the textual evidence, the text of the Quran or the verses of the Quran. So that's why, yes, I agree 100% that they have seen, they have witnessed that. And this is totally different than anybody else who didn't see the Prophet ﷺ, who just heard about the Prophet ﷺ. Anybody can bring another point. Yes, back there.
All of the Sahaba were converts to Islam.
All of the Sahaba?
They were all converts to Islam.
Converts. That's an interesting point. They lived the Jahiliyyah and they lived Islam. But is that an accurate point? Is all the companions convert? Not all of them, but a lot of them, yes. But that's a good point. That's a good point, actually, that they convert to Islam. Even though once Salman al-Farisi heard a man saying, I feel so bad that I was not exist in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. That you so lucky, Allah created you in that time. Allah give you something over me, advantage over me. Then Salman told him, and how would you know that if you were there, like so many other were exist in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, but they did not accept his message. They did not accept his da'wah. They were among the kuffar. So being there in his time is not enough. He said, you should be grateful that you're both parents Muslims. Because that's guarantee for you to raise in such environment. For me and people like me, we never had this. This is something we have to struggle with. So everybody should be happy and grateful to Allah for whatever Allah have provided him. So not being converted makes you better, or not being born Muslim make you higher. Yes?
I understood the language of the Prophet and the language of the Quran.
It's a very interesting point, actually. The language. And the language is not only the pure Arabic words. You know, I always say that, and I think this is a key point. to understand the ilm, the knowledge in general. Every language has something called the culture of the language. Does that make sense? That culture of the language, very important to understand what this word means. They are the one who belong to this culture, belong to this language. This is their way of talking. Like for example, if I walk and I see somebody say, wow, this is wicked. This is sick, this is bad. If I come from overseas, I would say, whoa, I don't know that this has all these germs and viruses and bad. No, it means good. It means very good. That's the way. The word gay, for example. Gay, it would bring somebody from 100 years ago, gay for him it means happy person. Today it means somebody lives in Westheimer, or where is that area? Montrose. Okay, so it's totally different story. You see what I'm saying? It's totally different. It's a culture. So the culture of the language play a major role of understand the text. Understand the text. Understand clearly. I'll give you an example. Very simple. Look how much there is ikhtilaf, difference of opinion among the fuqaha to define certain words the Prophet ﷺ used. You will not see that disagreement among the companions. For example, the Prophet ﷺ said, when al-ma' reach qullatayn. The Prophet ﷺ, when the water reach amount of qullatayn. Qulla, it's a container. What's the size of this container? There's people, Hanafi say something, the Shafi'iyya say something, the Hanabila something else. The Sahaba knows what qulla means. It's something exists. It's their culture, something they are familiar with. And this is something very unique about them. Really, absolutely. Good point. What else about the companion? Something set them really totally different from any other now.
They were saying that the difference in the things that were abolished and Islam made new rulings, like the children that being killed, the little girls, the idols, doing away with the idols.
So they saw the evilness of the Jahiliyyah, the ignorant day, then they converted to Islam. They can see the two pictures clear. Yes?
They witnessed the revelation of the Quran.
They witnessed the revelation of the Quran, how it come gradually changing people. Good. One thing, let me give you one example. Still the floor is open. Give you an example. According to Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, if one companion say something, make a statement, and this statement became popular, and nobody object to it, this statement became evidence, take place after the Quranic text, the Hadith text. This will come next immediately. It became hujjah, dalil, evidence. Any statement by any companion will become popular. Nobody object to it, it's proof. You cannot say, oh, I can leave it. It's not an opinion anymore. They call this dalil. It's like ijma', consensus. But this will not apply to any other than the companions. If one of the tabi'in said the statement became popular and nobody object to it, it's his opinion. That's why Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said, when it comes to the tabi'in, the successors, hum rijal wa nahnu rijal. They are men and we are men like them. But the companions, no, it's different case. There's a different rules related to the companions. So that's something set them apart from anybody else. Anybody else can think of something else. Give the Sahaba very special, different quality than anybody else. Yes? They're willing to sacrifice their time. But outside, even the tabi'een, the success, this is, so many people did that. Not only them.
The Prophet mentioned not to speak bad about them.
Not to speak bad about them. Somebody said, he said, don't speak bad about any Muslim.
But in general, for that.
Very close. I am very close to what you want.
Prophet said that they are the best generation.
They are the best generation. What you and him trying to reach, point, very good point, yes.
The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself said in a part in the Quran, saying that they were the best.
The best. I think that the point is, all the companions are udul, trustworthy. When you check the chain of narrators to see the authenticity of the hadith, do we check the authenticity of the companions? Only you need to check one thing. Is he really a companion or not? That's it. But any tabi'i, any person comes later on, you have to prove that he is trustworthy. That I can take from him. SubhanAllah, this is something special quality for the companions. Nobody else has it in the whole entire ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Why? Because they became trustworthy not by Al-Bukhari and Ahmad, they became trustworthy by the testimony of Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, really they are also, one of the things about the companions, none of the companions was innovator. But you have innovator among the tabi'een. The bid'ah, the innovations, did not appear and take a philosophical, the ideology of the innovators and the sects in Islam did not appear and became a philosophical argument in the time of the companions. This is way after that. And we talk about the time of the companions, I'm talking about the time where the majority of the companions were alive, which is by the beginning of Ali ibn Abi Talib's time, or the mid of Ali's time. That when you call the first generation of Islam, it's from the time of the Prophet ﷺ all the way to that. Even Ibn Hajar rahimahullah said in the middle or by the end of Ali radiallahu anhu ardah's time. That's where most of the companions were living. And by the time of Muawiyah, so the vast majority in that time were not the companion, were the successors. There's so many, but the vast majority of the population were the successors. By the time of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, the vast majority were the third generation of Islam. They were tatba' tabi'een. They became more popular. And you're still talking about 115, 120, 130 Hijri. You talk about that time. So the third generation actually start appearing or became very popular by that time. Anyway, so among them there is no innovators. None of their action can be classified as bid'ah. That's why Imam Shafi'i, when he was asked, what is bid'ah? He said, what the Prophet ﷺ did not practice, nor one of his companions, or any one of his companions. Anything that the Prophet did not practice, or any one of his companions, this is we call bid'ah. So if he practiced it, or one of his companions practiced it, it will not be considered bid'ah anymore. This is something different than anybody else in the ummah. Set them apart. That's why in the Sahaba radiallahu anhum wa ardahum, Ibn Mas'ud said, "I'rafu lahum qadrahum." You have to understand their status. And sometimes I notice we don't realize that. What is really their status? It's a very high status. In fiqh, in ilm, I'm not talking now about their sacrifice, how much they loved the deen, how much they supported the deen. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking only about the ilm. The ilm. Also, the companion as a generation, no doubt they have the best knowledge, complete not as individuals. That's why we might have, by the way, a scholar who comes even in modern days, who more knowledgeable than so many of the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's not يعني for example Khalid ibn al-Walid, he only memorized the short surahs. قل هو الله أحد إنا أعطيناك الكوثر والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر. That's all what he memorized, surahs like this. Can you compare him, for example, to Warsh or to Asim ibn Abi Nujud or to Al-Hasan al-Basri, who memorized the whole entire Quran with the qira'at? No doubt. They are more knowledgeable than the Quran than Khalid ibn Walid. That's why the muftis among the companions were not many, few. We call them the scholars among the companions. So, but as a whole, when you look at the whole entire generation, their knowledge reach a level nobody as a generation can be. But individuals, yes, might one individual be better than another individual in ilm, in taqwa, and so on. طيب. Those who follow the footsteps of the companion of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, those who follow the footsteps of the companion of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they have a very unique methodology. They have a very unique methodology when it comes to ilm. And the first point I would like to say here is the way they look at the ilm itself, how they define ilm, what the word knowledge means to the early Muslim scholars, and how it means to those who come later. As for the early Muslim scholars, knowledge for them is, word means certainty. Certainty. Al-ilm, it means something you are so certain about. It's not something, I don't know, I'm just listening to this guy, what he's saying. I'm just reading this to see what he's. Nowadays, ilm, so many of us, when we take knowledge, when we learn knowledge, is not to establish certainty. And when we teach knowledge, we don't teach the knowledge which establishes certainty in the heart. Certainty brings tranquility to the heart. Ilm for them is something they are so certain about, so sure about. That's why, what you think the first type of knowledge will be connected to this. When you talk knowledge, what's the first thing come to your mind? If it's based on certainty, the knowledge of Allah. That's why in so many statements you will find al-ilm huwa al-ilmu billah. What is ilm? Al-ilm is to know Allah. What is knowledge? Knowledge is to believe in Allah. What is knowledge? Sufyan al-Thawri was asked, is to have fear in your heart from Allah. What is knowledge? Is to have taqwa. It's always about Allah. That's the knowledge for them. So basically, this is the backbone of the knowledge. So everything you will hear from the early Muslim generation, it is surrounding around this. Whatever will lead to Allah, whatever will increase your iman in Allah, whatever will bring you closer to Allah, whatever will connect you to Allah, that's what's knowledge. Anything will not do that, they don't call it knowledge. Information, entertainment, whatever you want to call it. But that's not knowledge for them. And that's, by the way, a major difference between the way they learn, the way they look at the knowledge, and the way we look to the knowledge today. Sometimes we look at the knowledge something to entertain us, just something not really to bring us closer to Allah. That's why Al-Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, when his mother prepared him to go to the first class, what she told him? She told him, my son, go learn. And after you learn 10 issues, look if these issues that you learn, 10 new mas'alas, gems, things that you learn. After you learn these 10 issues, look at these issues, how it affect you and your relationship with Allah, and how it will affect your manners. It's going to make you a better person when you deal with others, and it's going to make you a better person when you go pray, when you fast, when you make dua. is going to make you closer to Allah if it's not change your teacher and leave this knowledge away. That's the advice that she gave him.
Are you talking about only religious ilm or any ilm?
No, I'm talking about the religious, the religion. So that's the ilm that in the early Muslims we talk about knowledge Sharia. That's what it is. Look at the people who came later on, or other than their way. From the beginning, there is a man, his name is Jahm ibn Safwan, who came to tell people that believe is not to have knowledge of Allah, no, to have information about Allah, which is, he called it ma'rifatullah, to just be informed about Allah, to know that He exists. That's it. If you know that He exists, you are completely mu'min. And this is the path that the Mu'tazila, the Asha'ira, everybody follow that path. See how the difference start from a very rooted area. It's all related to the methodology. For the early Muslim generation, they always refused the word ma'rifatullah. They said it's al-ilm, knowledge. Because knowledge, it means certainty, it means fear from Allah, it means love for Allah, it means depends on Allah. That's what ilm leads them to. It's just not to know that He exists and you became a believer. Yeah, it's that. So, anyway, they take ma'rifah, then after that, Asha'ira, this is tasdeeq, and yani, it take that direction in general. So, for them, al-ilm is a tawheed, is knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worshipping Him alone. Al-ilm for them, it means something lead to actions. Any knowledge will not lead to practice is something they are not interested in. Any knowledge will not help you to practice your deen, they're not interested in. And they don't care about it much. And that's how they wrote their books. I remember once I was in Chicago. They had a conference in DePaul University. Bunch of professors, Orientalists, talking about Al-Bukhari's method in Sahih al-Bukhari. So they had like 10 minutes of argument about why he made his book mess like that. So confusing. Sometimes he put this chapter here, he cut the hadith half, and it's so confusing the way he put his book. Yes, this criticism is a very old criticism, Sahih al-Bukhari, that the way he put it in order was not the best way. That's why some scholars prefer Muslim over al-Bukhari, because the way Muslim organizes book, it's much organized than al-Bukhari. But anyway, even though ulama said the way he set, or the titles of his chapters, his fiqh, regardless, I told him something. I said, you know what, guys, you're missing the point here. The point in Bukhari, when he wrote his book, he's not writing it for professors in DePaul University to use it as a curriculum to teach it in DePaul University. His book is about how Muslim can practice the religion. Simple as that. He used simple language, simple methods. He cut the hadith because this is the only point from the hadith. He put it here because it belongs here. He doesn't think about you guys or the order and which more logical, the sequence, it make more sense or not. This is not something really heaping so much attention. This is not his main focus. Simple, straight to the point. That's the way they are. That's what you need to know. That's how you practice it. That's how their methods in general when it comes to knowledge. So the knowledge, if there is no benefit under it, they will not talk about it. That's why so many arguments came up later only in the books which is written, or the methodology of the way of the scholar who came later, who left the methodology or the way of early Muslim scholars. Like for example, Mu'tazila invented the issue, which better, the angels or the humans? Who cares? I teach for example, I teach about the prophets and the angels, the pillars of Iman. The most excited, and you guys, someone if take the course with me, the most excited course, part of my course is about the person, the one about jinn. Is there a messenger to the jinn? They died, they lived how many, who cares about them? They live, they die. I don't really, I'm not taking my, alhamdulillah, place in Jannah. They don't make in traffic, jam traffic or anything in the street. So I don't care really about them. But see, that's the most area that we are interested to know more about. Put lecture today about dreams. Wow, you will see a big line of people coming to attend the lecture. But put lectures about something practical, people they don't like. People in the meetings, they like talks more than actions items. That's why even countries became greater when they can have practical agenda, something they can go and do it. Just not talking and argue without leading this knowledge, lead them to action. Also, al-ilm for them, when there is differences between them, differences in opinions, that was mercy for them. That's why the very famous statement, اختلاف العلماء رحمة, that the differences between the ulama is a mercy, applied to the ulama among the early Muslim generation. But the ulama who came later on, or who follow other than the methodology, their differences was a curse to the ummah. Was a curse. They fight one another, they kill one another, literally. And they were so bad towards one another. But you know the differences of opinions in ilm. Don't think about what happened between Ibn Zubair and this is not about ilm. This was about something totally else. You can know about it later. But in ilm, the fatwa, which is Ibn Umar, Ibn Abbas, Ibn Mas'ud, 3 different schools in fatwas. That differences of opinions was a mercy for the ummah. Was an ease for the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The language of the ilm was very simple, easy to be understood. The ilm also led to honoring the ulama and the scholars. The way they learn their ilm is totally different. One of the things about them, when they learn their ilm, my brothers and sisters, they don't care about how many. Yani, when you read and this is something you will notice, inshallah, if you come to the class, when you compare the ulama that I will teach you about, the first 200 and the later on in 800 Hijri and above, you will notice something interesting. The people later on cares about how many sheikh that I study under, how many ijazah I was able to collect. I have 800 sheikh, I have 700 sheikh, I study under 1,000 scholars. The early Muslim generation, they look for the quality. Imam Malik, when Abu Idris al-Khawlani, which is great alim, great scholar, the great muhaddith of Ahl al-Sham, when he came to Mecca, you know who, Mecca, this is a great opportunity now. He coming from very far away, coming to Mecca. The students eager to take the knowledge from him. Imam Malik told his students, nobody take any hadith from him. Hold on. He said, let me see him first. It's not about quantity. Then he said, nobody should write anything from this man. Next year, he said, now, he watched him, he hid behind a pillar, and he said, now you can take the hadith from him. You know why? He said, because first time when he came last year, I saw him when he narrated the hadith, he was narrated while he's casual. Casual, you see? Yeah, the Prophet ﷺ said. But this year I noticed totally, before he said the Prophet said, he will not be casual. He will sit properly and will be very focused, and he will pause for a second to make sure that he's saying absolutely correct. I notice a difference in his manner. And that a person deserves to be your sheikh today. Their methods, even if choosing the sheikh, the scholar, is totally different than the people later on. They don't give their ears to everybody. Give every good speaker, give khatib, somebody just grow big beard or put a big imama in the old days. That means sheikh. No, it doesn't work this way for them. Al-ilm and al-athbat. Ibn Sirin said, إن هذا الأمر دين فانظروا عمن تأخذ دينكم. This is deen. So you should be very careful where you're taking your deen from. Even the way they deliver the knowledge. They teach knowledge, and when they learn the knowledge, always adab manners with it. It goes together. And also graduate. They learn what is beneficial. They teach what is beneficial. They have adab and manners with the scholars, with the ilm, with the knowledge. And this is a very big area. We don't have time to go in it. But it is a very interesting area to see really big difference between them and the people who came later on. You see the people who came later on, all what they care about, things not beneficial. And that's what make people look so good. I remember something I noticed. I remember one brother said that, and I noticed that, but he really made it very clear to me. I was all thinking how to say it, but now I know how to say it perfectly. One brother once walked out from a lecture, and he said, MashaAllah, this lecture is so good. I said, how? And I didn't like the lecture. He said, I did not understand most of it. I said, excuse me? Wallahi, he said, that means it's so good. Because it's so young. I couldn't understand most of it. That's the good khatib, that's the good lecturer, that's the good scholar, the one who used these big, weird words. Oh, this terminology, I never heard of it. That's not the way of the early Muslim scholars. Ibn al-Qayyim also said, and that shows you the difference. Ibn al-Qayyim said, al-ilm is not about the differences of opinions. How many opinions you memorize? Yani people very impressed. Somebody would come to tell you, yes, there is 12 opinions in this issue. 1, 2, 3, Abu Hanifa said, Shafi'i said, Allah said. Wow, this is so good. This is real knowledge. That's not the knowledge. Ibn al-Qayyim said, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ الرَّاجِحِ. Al-ilm to know what is correct. Al-ilm to know how to understand why this is right and why this is wrong. Al-ilm is not by collecting how many opinions you memorize. Because no doubt you cannot memorize all these opinions all the time. But at least you know why this is the correct and why this is right and why you choosing this over the others. Also, they were very careful about the way they communicate with others, and I will end with this point, that they deliver the knowledge to the people who deserve it only. And if they notice somebody does not deserve this knowledge, they will not deliver it to him. To the extent some of them went to an extreme.